Hey, shed some light on the situation. I am the situation. What is up? All right, so I already did an at everyone tag. Crazy hair, whatever. I already did an at everyone tag with your little 15-minute warning. I know I'm early today, and I do apologize. Things are just a little different than I planned for today. So in true Margaret fashion, going along with things being different today than what I planned. I'm not going to talk about what I came in here to talk about. I was planning on talking about, and you're going to have to head to the podcast to get this week, because I will go into it there. But we talked about saddle fit and how important saddle fit is, and how having a bad fitting saddle can, impact your horse. But I want to talk about the other side of that. So check out the podcast this week. Comes out on Thursday, and it's all about how your horse can be the problem, not the saddle per se. Okay, so I know it's a different take. But what I'm actually going to talk to you about today is kind of a purpose for this group, where this group comes in. So this group is called Hope for the Hopeless Horse. It is primarily here to help you find hope. Okay. And not because I need to convince you. You're here because you know that there are options for your horse. You have hope that there's a solution for whatever is going on with your horse. And maybe you came here just because you're like, this sounds good and I don't have a problem right now, but I want to learn. Fantastic. And that's hope, right? It's that you will learn what you need to know for what is coming, right? It's preparation. And that is a huge part of this group is the hope side of it. And I just want to address the side of life, the side of life, the truth about the sticky situations, about being in a situation where you feel helpless. And I want this to be a safe place for you to come in and be like, this isn't working. I don't know what's going on, and ask for fucking help. This actually comes up from not a horse situation. This is, me in the last, I don't know. Listen, the last couple of years have been really rough for me personally, not on a horse level. I mean, yes, there's been rough patches with horses too, but primarily, in my personal life, and I feel like my lighting sucks today. And having to become the person. Okay, so I have historically have not been someone who loves asking for help. In fact, it's something that I've avoided at all costs, and to my own detriment, right? And I think that we're really good about it when it's like, our horse is having a problem and we call the vet or we call in another professional. To some extent, that's not necessarily the issue. I think that we do. I often am telling clients, like, we're often seeking for external help, external validation, when we in fact have the answers ourselves. And to some extent, that is true in asking for support. I just want to remind you all that you are a crucial part of your horse's life. Your horse has no hope if not for you. So whatever is going on with your horse, maybe not now, but in the future, whatever it is, like, you are the priority. You have to take care of you. And if that means that you are overly burdened right now by somebody else's situation, by circumstances of your own causing, whatever it is, you've got to ask for support. And I know that this can be tricky because, again, this is not something that I ever wanted to do. And, I found myself in situations where sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's like, hey, you're really good at this. Could you help me? And, like, we don't have a problem asking. But there are some things that maybe we've grown up with from childhood or just from society in general where we feel like, I should be able to do this myself. Really? Who says that? Who told you that you should? And maybe your parents did. But then it's also being able to give ourselves the grace and look at the situation and recognize, like, maybe it's okay that I ask for help. Maybe, in fact, it's going to be better for me, for my horse, for my family, for everyone involved, everybody connected to me, if I ask for help. Because, if we don't ask, we end up a lot of times in situations that are significantly worse than when we started, right? if we just ask for support, we can often fix the solution or find a solution, fix the problem that is higher and better. And so part of this is emotional regulation, right? Part of this is being able to be calm. So we can apply this to the horses, easy peasy, right? Now, your horse is injured. What do you do? Okay, so example, right? You go out to the pasture, your horse has got blood running down his leg and limping, and you're like, oh my gosh, what do you do? And when I say what do you do, like first answer, like we're all like, duh, call the vet. Right. But let's like put yourself in the experience of that situation. What do you do? Does your breathing increase? Does your heart rate go up? Do you feel your heart pounding in your chest? And then you make a panicked phone call. How observant are you able to be when you are in that heightened state? I can tell you the answer is not as observant as you could be if you are in a calm state. That's, if you look at studies from, I guess, police departments, I don't know, law enforcement, I guess is the right word there. Good job, Margaret. They have studies about eyewitnesses and about how unreliable their testimony is because people are just so unobservant. It gets worse when you are in a heightened state of awareness, which seems kind of like the opposite of what we would expect, because we're in a heightened state of awareness. But the things that you notice aren't always the important things. You may, in fact, be missing out on the things that are really important. And again, this is how our brain works, right? So if you're in Equine Alchemy, some of this is going to be like right on track with what we're talking about in there, in terms of, your subconscious mind filters out what it deems to be important to keep you safe and keep you alive living for tomorrow, okay? So when you're in this situation and you go into fight or flight, your ability to actually logically discern between important and unimportant is completely diminished. Your subconscious mind is trying to make it so that you survive another day because it can't tell the difference between you panicking over about being eaten by a bear and you panicking because something is wrong with your horse, okay? So in this sense, emotional regulation is going to help us come back into, this is what it does for us all the time, it helps us come back into our thinking brain instead of our survival brain, okay? So can we see how this would be completely crucial? And the other thing that we talk about in Equine Alchemy is creating safety in ourselves so that we are better able to handle situations, including asking for fucking help. This is the big one. And it's not just calling the vet. It's saying, you know what, I'm overwhelmed right now. And, I think what I realized today, working through my own shit as I do, is that I end up in situations where I feel like a burden by having to ask for help because I want to put some of my stuff down. And I don't feel like I should be having to put my stuff down. But the reason that I feel overwhelmed by the stuff that I'm carrying is because it's not all mine. Because I'm taking responsibility and carrying some burdens for other people. And we do that all the time. Like we do that in the name of love, right? I love someone, I'm going to help them carry a burden. But the reality is that doesn't serve us, it doesn't serve them in the long run, because we can just give them the tools to help solve their problem, offer them support, and not carry their burden, just like we can ask for support ourselves from our thinking brains that will allow us to create a solution to the situation that doesn't put the burden on someone else. So we're not feeling like a burden, because we can come to people and we can say, hey, I'm feeling extremely overwhelmed with all of the things that need to be done around the house, right? And instead of being like, I can't do this shit anymore, these are now all your tasks, we can say, here's what will be really helpful to me, because we've put some thought into it before we ask for our support. And this may not feel very related, but I'm telling you, separation is the illusion. This affects everything in your life, because when you're carrying too much burden from home or from work, you're carrying that burden into your relationship with your horse. That is directly impacting your ability to communicate and connect with them. That is directly impacting your ability to show up as the rider and owner and horse equestrian human relationship kind of person that you want to be. And you're bringing that baggage into your relationship with your horse, whether you intend to or not. They are highly sensitive beings. They pick up on these things way faster than we do. We have dulled our senses. It's so interesting to me because we talk about desensitizing our horses and we want to desensitize them. And I think it's interesting because that is what we have done to ourselves. That is what society has done to us. That's what we do to our kids. We desensitize them. They are not impressed by certain things. You know, we tell them to feel your feelings by yourself. We don't feel our own feelings. We lose that awareness, that sensitivity that we had to the actual energy of feeling feelings. We lose that. And we think it's a good thing because we can go into a traumatic situation and we feel like we're handling it well. We can walk away from a traumatic situation and feel like we're handling it well. But what we miss is the physical impact that that trauma has on our body and our cells, and that is not forgotten. And also, you know, that we're compounding all of those emotions we have a limited size container and we just keep cramming emotions in there and telling ourselves that we're handling it well because we're suppressing them. Desensitized. That's what we've done to ourselves. And then we talk about how we want to desensitize our horses and somehow bring ourselves benefit by doing that, when in reality, we want to have an open relationship where we can both be aware and sensitive to the other's emotions, be it like situations, concerns, right? We can't be aware of everybody else's concerns if we're not aware of our own. And if you are continuously like, yeah, I am aware of everybody else's concerns, and you aren't aware of your own, you're not deeply aware of their concerns. You're surface level aware of their concerns. So you might be like, yeah, the horse is looking off in the distance and he kind of like stood up in alert, but you don't understand why. You can't perceive why. You can't perceive what's going on behind that because you're not willing to go perceiving anything about what's going on beyond yourself, inside of yourself, the deeper explanation of what's going on within yourself. If you're not willing to do that for yourself, you certainly aren't going to be able to do it for other people. And why should they let you? And not just people, horses. When I say people, it's often interchangeable with horses, okay? We want to create that connection. No one is going to want to connect with you on a deep level if you don't want to connect with you on a deep level. If you're scared of what's in there, they're scared of what's in there, and they should be. Because if you're scared of what's inside of you, like, fuck, dude, I don't want to know. I mean, you should know what's in there to some extent. You know what you've been through. And if you're scared of it, fuck, I'm scared of it, right? So we get to allow ourselves to ask for support from a very neutral place where we get to like regulate ourselves. So going back to that example, you know, you go out and you're in that panic and you're like calling the vet and you're like, my horse is lame and there's blood down his leg. And the vet's like, okay, can you see the gash? And you're like, well, I haven't approached my horse yet. I was panicked. I just called you. And like, ugh. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to need you to get closer. Can you catch the horse? Are they trapped in anything? You're like, I don't know. I guess I'm going to go find out. Like, in order to get the help that you need in the moment, you have to be able to not suppress the emotion, okay, but regulate it and come into the moment. Because the reality of the situation is you're panicking, but you don't know what you're panicking about. You're panicking over a perceived situation because you saw blood on your horse's leg and they seem to be limping. You didn't see anything to let you know that this was a die-hard panic situation, right? So come back into the moment. This isn't suppressing emotion. That's being like, okay, I hear you, panic. I hear you. But let's come back in this moment and recognize that I don't know what I'm panicking about. I see blood, but what if it's not their blood? Right? What if it's not their blood? And you're just out here panicking. And you don't have the information you need to communicate with the vet about the actual situation. And okay, so the vet's like, it's fine. I'll be there in half an hour. Okay? So you are like, cool, the vet's coming. Nobody knows what the situation is because I still haven't caught the horse. I just think there's blood on its leg. And you go out and you catch the horse and you start looking and you're like, oh, shit, that's not even blood. That's just like a bunch of smushed on berry gunk. There's no blood here. So you got yourself all worked up. You called someone and you asked for support, and then they come out and there's nothing to support you with except for washing the berries off your horse's leg. Is this a very unlikely story? Yes. But do you understand what I'm saying? You can't get the help you need if you don't assess the situation. And you can't assess the situation if you are not in a neutral space, if you're not present in the moment and taking in all the information that you need. Higher and better solutions are what we need in those times of like critical, intense emergency. We need higher and better solutions. So I guess I get to come back to that story that I told a few weeks ago. Lord only knows, like, what week is it? We're halfway through February already, more than halfway. Goodness gracious. The story I told about lightning passing. Like, yes, there were moments of like being overwhelmed with emotion, but the reality is what I was most emotional about was what it was going to feel like to actually lose him, but he wasn't gone yet, right? And so much of the emotional stuff that we avoid, or the situations that we avoid, are based in a fear, based in avoiding feeling a feeling, okay? Right? Like, you don't want to do Facebook Lives. You're like, I'm not doing a Facebook Live. Like, I have, maybe you have a business to promote and you're like, I'm not doing a Facebook Live. I'm not doing it. Maybe you have a book that you wrote, or like something. You have something that you want to share with people, but you're like, I'm not doing a Facebook Live. No way. Why not? You're not actually scared of the technology involved, right? Like, you're not scared of the camera. You're not scared of the social media itself. What you're scared of is the potential of getting on Facebook Live and being rejected, making a fool out of yourself in some way, looking stupid, people laughing at you. That's what you're afraid of, people judging you. So you're afraid of something that hasn't happened yet, that is actually an emotion. You don't want to feel the emotion of rejection, right? We don't want to feel loss with our horses. We don't want to feel like shitty horse moms. We want to have answers, and we want to create solutions that are going to solve problems, not just put a band-aid on it, but actually solve the problem. In order to do that, we have to emotionally regulate so that we can be in our thinking brain, so that we can create higher and better solutions and ask for higher and better levels of support. This is very much what Equine Alchemy is about. It is about creating a better connection with your horse, but underneath that is the emotional regulation piece. Because I've had amazing relationships with horses throughout my life. Amazing. I mean, I've had horses literally save my life. I've had horses so dedicated to what we have been training for that they faked their own jog out, right? They went from walking up to jog out lane and going through jog out and passing the jog out, and me having to like argue with the vet that we are absolutely not competing. Like, I've had horses that do that kind of stuff for me, and I've been that deeply connected, but nothing has been like the experience of connecting with the horse after I've connected with myself enough, after I've gotten to the point where I can manage my own emotions, and not manage them in a way of control, but become familiar with them and work with them and understand the serves and the limits and what the messages are that my own emotions are trying to communicate with me. Because when I am familiar with how my emotions are communicating with me, it just follows that I can then understand why my horses are behaving in certain ways. Because guess what, guys? Your behaviors are all led up to and created by the emotions that you feel. It's a cycle. And so we can either work against it or we can work with it. And so again, that's what Equine Alchemy is about. We are, I don't know, a little over a weekend. It's Tuesday, so it's like we're 8 days in. This is day 8. And I invite you to jump in now. Jump in now. You'll be able to catch the live closing ceremony that we're going to have on February 24th. And after that, this program is just something that's going to be there that you can check into anytime. But, you guys still have time to jump in on a live portion of it and create your own results and be a part of the creating of the energy that will become this permanent imprint on this group and on this community. And I would love to have you join for that. So I'm going to go ahead, as per usual, and drop the link in the comments of this live. Thank you guys so much for understanding my timing change. And yeah, I guess I will see you next Tuesday.